All right, so what do we have on our list today? This is a tomford purse, which has seen its better days. It's been very much used and loved. Now what we're going to do is we're going to replace the piping all the way around. And once we got it apart, we're going to clean it and add some color to the faded areas, condition it, and then we're going to do with the interior, we're going to try to clean it as best as we can. I mean, it is a bit dirty. She used the heck out of it, that's what you're supposed to do. In my opinion, you shouldn't just let the purse sit on the shelf. You need to use it. Also, this piece right here, we're going to replace with new material. This job was a $1,300 job. We gave the customer an option to replace the lining, would be another $600, and they opted out of it, which is fine, no worries. We give options and they should decide what they want to do. This is what the interior should look like. This pocket was never used. It's fairly brand new. Looks like she used the main compartment only, which is no problem. All right, let's get started. Man, I love this purse. Look at these oversized zippers. They're huge. Wow. It's pretty cool. This zipper here is basically an expansion to the bottom. Now, she never used that. This was closed, as you can tell, because the inside leather is practically brand new. So that got never used. I love this purse. It's very cool. Yeah, we're going to make it look a little better. Just a little. Disclaimer alert. This is my old stone that I've had. As you can see, it fell down a couple of times. I've broken the pieces. I removed the handle. I don't know why I removed the handle. Uh-oh. The blade doesn't want to stay in. Oh no! You think it's time to replace it? Is that like an omen? Hell no. Or use this blade till it dies. Nothing wrong with that blade. Now this is just to kind of sharpen the edges, just so I can start cutting the threads. That's all it's for. Let's continue. It's very important that whenever you're doing piping, especially the one that's getting curves and patterns like this, that you've got to put some marks on the bottom side panel and the front and back. When I say marks, just kind of guide marks every maybe 6 inch or whatever. You got to do that from the inside. You got to turn the bag inside out. That's why we open the lining here, and we're going to turn this inside out. Now we do that for the reason when you're stitching it back together, this is very easy to lose its shape. And you don't want it to lose its shape because it's not going to look good, it's not going to work, it's not going to work out. Now, if you take a look at it real closely, you'll get to see that the manufacturers have some guide marks. Okay, if you see that little notch right there, that's the center of the bag, right? If you kind of go around the edges, you'll see another one right there. You see? There's another one right there. So all these got to line up with the bottom panel, side panel, and then the front and back panel. If you don't line them up, it's going to throw off. It's going to throw off the shape of the bag, and you don't want to do that. Now I like to, even though there's marks on there, I mean, I'd like to still. They're not very visible. I mean, you can't hardly tell where they are. I'd like to just put any kind of mark is fine. This is a magic marker, Sharpie, wherever you want to mark it. It doesn't matter, as long as you've got some marks. Now, but you got to be careful though, right? Once you take the bag apart, if the marks are, let's see if I can explain this. If you have the same pattern marks, then you don't know which way it's going to go. So simply on one side, just add another mark to it like that, double mark it. This way you know that that belongs there. It's not going to be on the other side where the single mark is going to be. Okay. All right, let's continue. All right, let's take a look at something. You see how there's 2 stitches right there? There's only 1 stitch on this side, which means that the piping was stitched on first, okay, and then the side panels came together like that. Now, so when you're taking it apart, it would be kind of cool to take it apart on the double stitch side, because what's going to happen is if you start taking the single stitch side apart, then you got to cut the other stitch again. So now you've made double time of your job. So this way you just cut it on the double stitches. It'll be a lot easier and it'll take it apart very easily. Now, most of the time, whenever you're replacing pipings, the piping is stitched on the bottom side panels, not on the body of the bag. I think the idea is that if it's stitched on the body of the bag, it's a lot longer distance than it is on the bottom. I'm not really sure, but I've tried it in the past before, but it's worked out better if it was on the panels, the side, if it's got like the Speedy, LV Speedy, the side panels, it's stitched on the panels first, side panels, and then it's stitched to the body of the bag. We're going to do the same way with this one. We're going to disassemble it and stitch it first to the bottom and side panel, and then reassemble it to the front and back. All right, let's continue. And by all means, I'm not an expert in bag making. I was never trained actually to make bags. Now, my dad never did this. My dad was a shoemaker. He didn't work on bags. You know, patched a couple of small jobs here and there when we came to the States, but back home, he was a shoemaker. And my brother, on the other hand, my second brother who passed away last year, he was just incredible craftsman. I learned a lot from him, but it was never like technical learning, if that makes sense. It was always basically like watching, practicing, and you know, getting smacked in the back of the head. Said, "Dummy, that's not how it's done." You know, and basically that's how I learned. And I can make bags now. It's just don't want to right now because I just don't have the time. My schedule's so backlogged with repairs and restorations. I just tend to not to make any items anymore. Yes, I used to, but I don't anymore. Just don't have the time. Disassembly of the bag. I love this part. What's the PSA of the day? For those of you who don't know what PSA stands for, it's Public Service Announcement. The PSA of the day is, let's see if I can think of something. The path you choose will have few puddles. Now think about that. The path you choose will have a few puddles. So true. I like these PSAs. I think we'll do one every video. Although some people say, "Oh, I don't want to hear you talk, man. You talk too much." Hey, man, why do you talk so much in your videos? Oh, no. There is a mute button, you know. See, that's why you don't want the blade to be too sharp. You want it to be sharp enough to basically cut the thread, but you don't want to damage anything along the way. If it's too sharp, no, it's not my hand shaking. Although it does seem to be, does affect it sometimes. What can I say? I enjoy my coffee, my espressos, Armenian coffee. All right, we are almost done with this disassembly, and we are done, man. Look at that, just a piece of leathers. All right, let's continue. I'm using a small nylon brush. This is a shoulder strap, okay? In order to get to those stitches there, you've got to unstitch the zipper to open that up, move the lining out of the way, so you can stitch the new one back on without stitching through the lining here. That's your tomford metal card. It says tomford on there. The plastic, clear plastic, is still on there, so she never took it off. I don't even think she knew it was there, because once this zips up, you can't tell that's in there. And there's no reason for you to unzip it. It's just for style. All right, let's continue. So this piece right here is a faux suede. I happen to have exact same material as what this bag has. Now this material, we're going to do another project. It's going to be the Louis Vuitton cigar case. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a big job. We just have to kind of finalize the details on how the customer wants it and the price that it's going to take to get it done. Might just replace this piece also, which is a fiberboard piece. It's no big deal. I'm going to fix that or maybe replace it, I'm not sure. It would have been nice to have a new lining with it too, huh? That's okay. It is what it is. Let's continue. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. This is a water-based polyurethane dye. You don't have to put too much on there, just a little bit to fill in the dried out areas. Make the surface a little bit more uniform. It looks a little lighter, but when it dries, it'll dry a bit dark, so it'll blend in a little better than what you got now. Now I did prep the surface. I used a little bit of acetone to wipe that surface down, just to clean the surface so the dye can kind of adhere to the fibers. And once this dries, we'll take a look at it to see if we need to touch it up a couple of times more in the lighter areas where it was worn off. Because what happens is when it's worn out, it absorbs into the pores a lot more than the rest of it, and it kind of gives it an uneven finish, which we don't want. So we'll let this dry. Once we put a one thin coat on, we'll let it dry. We'll come back and look at it. If it needs to be touched up, we'll touch it up. And then once it's dry, we'll go ahead and put some leather conditioner on it. We'll let that dry and then condition it one more time. And inspect it, make sure everything's good. And then last step would be the water repellent spray. Now that would be the last, after everything has been done, after it's been assembled, that would be the last thing to do. We'll spray it down, let it dry, and she'll be ready to be handed off to the customer. Now this customer is local, so he did bring this in. I'm going to talk to him. He was the one who brought it in for his wife. I'm going to talk to him to see if we can get a reaction video. I'm not sure. Some people don't like to be on video, which is fine. So I'll try my best to see what I can come up with for you guys. All right, let's continue. So for the piping, I use weed whacker line. Something like this. Doesn't have to be this exact one, but they have different sizes usually. Okay. You don't want it to be too thick. This doesn't break. This is very, it's very durable compared to what the manufacturers use. This is very durable for piping jobs. All right, now you guys remember the marks we made, right? So once the piping is stitched on one side, all you got to do is bring the marks. Where are the marks? And bring them together. Okay, now what I do is I take a center of the bag, I secure that here and also on the other side, and then secure it at that spot in the center of the bottom. This way when you're stitching it, it doesn't shift on you. Even though the marks are there, you got to be careful so it doesn't shift on you. So a couple of spots of the bag will secure it and then stitch the whole thing around. All right, the moment of truth. Back up a little bit. With you 1 second, sir. Not too bad, not too shabby. All right, let's continue. All right, we are done with another project. Now this one was fun to do. I like doing this bag because this bag is kind of cool to me. As you can see, you know, the piping got done, and once it was disassembled, we could kind of get to the surface where we could clean it and re-dye it and condition it. I think the color came back pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. The lining got cleaned. It looks very nice. I'm kind of going back on what I offered him about a new lining. He didn't need a new lining. The lining was just, it looked worse than it did, if that makes sense. And once we put the shoulder pad in there, shoulder pad cover in there, and then just kind of reassemble the back, and I think the bag turned out phenomenal. I think she's going to get many years of wear out of it. As seen previously, it looks like one of her favorite bags. All right, thanks again for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thumbs up, share, comment, all those good things that will help the channel grow. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys again on the next project. Take care.